Today guys, I was in Harbor Freight and I came across this headlight lens restore kit. It's $14. I've seen some other Meguiar's products. This was just a cheap one. The one thing I liked about it is it actually came with a sanding sponge and all the stuff to do it. So I thought it was at least a neat concept. I've already put a little bit on here, and we'll grab the water and clean it up. And then this is just the very first hit with 500 grit. So the instructions say to use 500 grit, then step to 800. And then once you've reduced those scratches, step up to a 3000, and they have a polishing compound with a polishing pad that came with the kit. So we'll just spray this off here and see what we're left with on the first pass. And so you guys can kind of see I stopped pretty quickly just so we could get a video. And we can see there's some scratching in it still, and a little bit of haze, but we're gonna work on that. We'll keep it kind of misted here, and then we'll keep using this. I will say that trying to use a drill in the sanding pad here is a somewhat challenging feat. You'll have to learn to feel the balance to try to keep from digging in and scratching. It's probably better to hand sand this just because you can get the contours and you're not going to run the risk of putting any additional scratches. But for $15, I figured we'd see what it would do. And you want to do your best. It's going to try to walk around on you, but you want to do your best to keep it from digging in on one side, and you want to try to move in the same pattern across the headlight. They also said that you want a 12 to 1600 RPM drill. I don't know how unless you have your original paperwork from your drill, you're going to struggle to know whether you have that. So just kind of do it by feel. See, I'm working back across. I'm working in a left to right pattern. Trying to make sure that we cover every inch. Like I said, right now we're trying to polish the yellow and the haze out. And we'll get that yellow and haze started to get polished out and get a nice even frosted look. We'll step up in grit. You should have a nice even color, and it's going to look like dirty glass. It's going to look frosted, but what we're looking for is that even coat across the whole thing.
Mommy.
And so I do see most of the yellowing is gone. It's a clearer now, and it's just getting a nice fog to it. So I'll probably go over one more step with 500, and then we may step up to the 8 once we see what it looks like. When you're in this corner up here on this particular van, you got to be careful not to run your sanding pad onto the actual painted surface of your vehicle. So when that's the case, I'm kind of favoring one edge and trying to use a little pressure. So that way I can work the top and the bottom with the sanding pad without getting it on the paint. Slow is good. It's better to be slow and controlled than try to do it fast. The one thing that I've been doing that they haven't said was I've been just misting it with a little water just to help keep it lubricated. It tends to make it slide a little easier, and then the last step we're doing a water sanding anyway, so the only thing that is doing for us is slowing down the cut a little bit and allowing us to have a little more control so we don't gouge the lens. The sanding pad they've used has been a pretty good one. It's got quite a bit of flex to it. It's still firm enough, and it's doing an okay job. Okay, we'll stop here and see where we're at. It's about the 5th coat with 500. So it should be getting to a pretty even frosted look across it. Let me grab a fresh rag. And there is just a little bit of soap detergent in that water. It's literally about 1/4 of a bottle of water and 1 drop of soap. That just also kind of helps with the lubrication. As you can see, we're getting a nice even haze as you feel it. It's nice and smooth. There's no bumps or gouges or divots. So we're about ready for the next step. I'll get set up here and you can come back in, watch me do 1 or 2 steps, and then I'll bring it up to the next stage. All right, so I just wanted to show you real quick. Some people may wonder how this works here. This foam pad is just hook and loop sandpaper. And it's better to change more frequently than not. That's the 500, and you saw it labeled there on the back. We're gonna switch to the 800 here, and you just wanna do your best to center it up on the pad, leave enough Velcro exposed, and that's how you apply the 800 pad. Our next step will be the 3000 grit, and it also has a little extra foam backer. And the final step will be this orange foam polishing pad, where we'll actually apply a little dime-sized polish right here, and we'll get going on the final step. So right now we're on the 2nd step, the 800 grit. Again, I like to wet it. Just a little bit of soap in my mixture. We're going to step up to the next grit here, and what we're trying to do is work the 500 scratches out with the 800. And I'm using a 12-volt drill here, mainly for weight, just because I knew I was going to be doing this a while, and the 12 volt's a little easier. This particular style of 12 volt has the handle in the front here, which allows me to get a hold of it better. All right, let me get the bottle. Thank you, big helper. And what it should start to do is look a little more even with the haze. You'll see a little less fine scratches in between. So we're gonna finish up. I think this will be our last coat with the 800. It's already starting to clear up quite a bit. You can see whenever I get it wet, it'll be closer to what it'll be like once we get it all polished and sealed again. But I can feel the scratches are out, so we're gonna switch from 800. I did make 6 passes with the 800. I used 2 sanding pads with the 800 and 3 with the 500 so far. We're gonna switch over to this 3000 grit sponge. and we're going to do the same thing. This is the one where they talk about wet sanding it, so we're going to continue to do the wet sanding that we've been doing. And we'll start our second to final pass. Try to work our edges real good on this one, so that way once I get the edges sanded in, I can focus on the main boarding. The other important thing here is if it starts getting dry, keep it wet. You gotta keep the soapy water on there lubricating it. And every time we step up and grit, our objective is to sand out the scratches from the previous sanding step. That's on headlights, woodworking, metalwork. The whole purpose of having different sanding grits is to get the most efficient sanding done first, and then you use the subsequent next step up in the sanding grit to clean up the scratches from the previous sanding. Depending on what your application is, will depend on what you have to use as far as grit, how fine, how coarse. Body work, the headlight lens restoration, you have to go up pretty fine. Same thing when you're filing a knife bevel, you'll go up pretty high when you're doing the final sand. And again, we're very low pressure, low to medium pressure. Just trying to let the sanding sponge do its job. Trying to keep it nice and flat and level, which can be difficult. You just want to try to figure out the motion and what you need to move your arms, and you want to try to keep the tool head as flat as you can. Go up and down one more time on it from side to side, and then we'll wipe it down, see what it looks like. I'll pick the speed up a little bit on the drill head. Grab a clean rag here. Okay, and I can see some of the scratches are starting to come out. So we'll repeat this step. Like I said, the previous two were 5 or 6 times a piece. This one will probably be the same. We may go a couple more, may do closer to 8 or 10. We'll just kind of see. We'll take it as we go. It's looking pretty good so far. So we'll hit it a couple more times. We'll come back in and show you the final polishing step. So that was our 6th coat of 3000, our 6th pass of 3000. Most of it off here. You can already see, especially when wet, how the clarities come up quite a bit. The color, especially of the orange and the chrome, it's not so yellowish. It's going to still look a little foggy at this point, but each sanding step it's getting a little clearer. The final step will be the orange foam pad. We we talked about. I only used the one 3000 and there's still plenty of sanding left in it. So now we're going to stick the polishing foam wheel on. We're going to take the included polishing compound they give us. See if I can. Okay, we got that off. Again, about a dime size. Right there in the middle. That's all you need. Put the lid back on so we don't make a mess. Anytime you have a dry polishing wheel before and a surface hadn't been polished on, you want to kind of dab it around and just kind of smear it all over the surface. And it's going to be the same thing. We're going to spin it up, light pressure at first so we get some cutting compound on there. Then I'm going to work the edges heavy. This is the only step that I'm going vertical in. I'm going to do a crosshatch pattern on this. So I'm going to go up and then I'm going to go across. It'll take a couple steps of this, a couple times of trying. Again, I'm going to reapply another, probably about the same, another dime size. And I'm going to, again, dab it all over. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick the speed up just a little more than last time. Quickly hit the whole thing and then I'll work the edges like I have been. And by working the edges first, it just allows me to cover the larger surface area. You can see already after just 2 passes how much clearer this was than we originally started. I don't know that it's quite as good as that one there, but it's pretty close. That one was a brand new lens. I'll probably hit this one a couple more times and try to get it a little better, but I think that's acceptable compared to what we started with. This is a big improvement for the $15 or $20 that the kit cost from Harbor Freight. Again, I'll show you the kit that I picked up. It's their deluxe lens renewal system. It was over with the polishers and the random orbital sanders that they have there. It's a little cheaper than the other kits that I've seen, and it did include the tool that ran off the drill. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. It feels very smooth now compared to what it was. And the yellowing, we'll try to get a before and after picture up there. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you got any tips or comments, things you want to see us try, just let us know in the comments below. Appreciate it.